Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Path of Strength. Synopsis. Katalia Frost, daughter of the Alpha, grew up knowing that her brother would one day lead their pack. But when he decides to step away from the role, Katalia finds herself unexpectedly in line for the title. She's long been a force in her own right, known for her fierce spirit and natural authority, a rare, almost mythical alpha female in a world where such a thing is scarcely believed to exist. Yet Katalia carries her own burdens. Traumatized as a young teen, she's grown distrustful of men and deeply skeptical of the notion of mates. To her, a mate would only mean limitations, another person's dominance threatening to control her life. She has vowed that she needs no mate, no man to stand in her way or direct her future. But what happens when fate introduces her to her mate? Enter Justin Warner, who joined the pack when Katalia was 14, training to become a warrior. From the beginning, Justin found himself drawn to her, captivated by her resilience and strength. Unlike Katalia, he grew up yearning for the kind of connection his parents shared, a bond marked by trust, love, and unity. Now, faced with his destined mate, Justin finds Katalia unwilling to open herself to him. She views their bond as a trap, something to be resisted at all costs. Will Justin have the strength to break down her walls, to help her heal from the shadows of her past? Or will Katalia's deep-seated fears drive her to reject the very mate chosen for her, leaving Justin heartbroken and alone? Prologue. Alert! This chapter may contain content that might be triggering to some listeners. If you cannot handle it, you can skip to the first chapter. Has your world ever just stopped spinning? Have you felt that everything that made you comfortable and happy just faded away and left you as an empty and emotional shell? If not, I have. I can assure you it is not a pleasant feeling. I was a happy child. I was considered the pack's princess. My parents doted on me, I was always well liked, I had plenty of friends, and I had siblings that I was close to. Just one day. That was all it took to turn my world upside down, to turn my outlook on life bleak. The day started like any other. I attended mandatory pack training. Before we received our wolves on our 16th birthday, every child in the pack was required to train beginning at the age of 11. If we trained and conditioned our bodies, then it would make the transition easier when we received our wolves. The transformation would not hurt as much, or at least that is what my parents would tell me. Katalia. Wait up! I turned around to see my best friend, Oliver, who is the future beta of the pack, running to catch up to me. I looked at him with a grin on my face. What's up, Ollie? He gave me the biggest grin and asked me what my plans were for tonight. No plans. What are you doing tonight? A bunch of us were going to the next pack over for a party they were having. I heard Michael talking about it and I was wondering if you wanted to go with me. I did not really want to go. I did not always enjoy the parties that happened with the wolves from the Crimson Sun pack. They were usually wild and ended up with someone getting into trouble, usually my brother Michael and me. But I know that if I don't go, then Ollie will go and get himself in trouble. It is only because I care about Ollie that I decided to go to this party. Yeah, I guess I can go. If you promise that you won't do anything stupid, I don't need your parents and my parents mad at me. Even though Ollie and I are the same age, I am considered the more responsible out of the two of us, so whenever we get into trouble, both of our parents always come to me. As the daughter of the Alpha, I am more responsible, and I should know better. Michael and I are used to these lectures. It has gotten to the point where we could probably recite the lectures in our sleep. Of course. Of course. I promise we will get into no trouble, and at the first sign of trouble we can go home. Is it alright if we just meet at the Crimson Sun Pack? My father has some additional training that he wants me to attend, and I think I will be with him all day. Let's meet at 8 under the big oak tree near the pack entrance to Crimson Sunday. Oliver hugs me, excited that I agreed to go with him to this party. Okay, go attend your training. I have some schoolwork to do before I can think about going to any party. We both go our separate ways and I head to the pack house to do my homework for school. Typically, the pack house holds the rank members of the pack. My family doesn't reside in the pack house. My father decided when he met my mother that he didn't want to raise his family in the pack house, and he built us a house that was about a 10-minute walk from the pack house. I usually do my schoolwork in the pack house since I can get away from my brothers. I love my brothers, but they can get on my nerves at the drop of a hat. I get lost in doing my homework when I check my phone and realize that it is already 7 and I should have been getting ready for the party. I rush to go take my shower and pick out an outfit. I decided on a black halter top, with a high-waisted skirt, and my favorite black heels. I rush around my room getting my makeup together and making my makeup very light. I usually don't wear a lot of makeup and usually only did when I went to parties with Oliver. I checked the time again and realized that I was going to be late for the meeting with Ollie. I sent him a quick text to let him know I was about to leave my house, but I would be there late and to go ahead and go in without me and I would find him. As I make my way through the woods, I finally leave my pack territory. I continue trekking through the woods, trying to rush as fast as possible. I don't like traveling through this area. There is a small section of woods between my pack and the Crimson Sun Pack that is considered no man's land, otherwise known as rogue territory. The hair on my skin starts to rise and I get this eerie feeling that I am being watched. I continue trying to rush as quickly as possible just in case there is something in the woods with me. Why did I decide to wear these heels? They are making it hard for me to get through the forest. I hear a twig snap and I whip around. I saw 3 males step out of the tree line. The smell coming from them was horrendous. Rogues. I don't think I will be able to take on all 3 of them though. I don't have my wolf yet and all 3 of them are towering over me. Look what we have here, boys. Someone came to play. The tallest of the 3 stated. I quickly looked at all 3 of them and then took off running. I ran as fast as I could, and I could hear my heart thumping in my ears. I'm not sure if I will be able to outrun the 3 of them, but I will die trying. The shortest of the 3 catches up to me and yanks my hair back, throwing me on the ground. Now, be a good girl and give us what we crave, he growls at me. One of them grabs my arms and holds them about my head as I continue thrashing and screaming, praying that I am close enough to the Crimson Sun Pack for someone to hear me. I started screaming and yelling even louder, until my voice went hoarse. Look boys, we had ourselves a little virgin, he growled as I continued to cry. They continued to take turns me until they were content, each one pulling out as they finished. I lay there, whimpering. I gave up. I had no more fight left in me. I wish they would just kill me and put me out of my misery. I heard rustling coming from the other side of the woods and my 3 rapists took off running. I try to cry out and scream, but my voice is too hoarse. It comes out as little squeaks and whimpers of pain. I can feel the blood running down my thighs. Oh, my goddess, Katalia! What happened? Oliver, call my father and your father. Tell them that Katalia has been injured and needs a pack doctor. I have been saved. As Michael goes to pick up my limp body, I can feel the fight leaving me, my adrenaline running out. My eyes start to close, and I am met with blackness. Chapter 1. Oliver, I felt that something was off. Katalia hadn't been answering her phone and called her house, and her youngest brother, Elijah, told me that she had left shortly after she had texted me. I went searching for Michael to see if he could help me find his sister. I spotted him making out with the Crimson Sun Alpha's daughter. Michael! I yelled to get his attention. He waved me off as a sign that he was busy, and I was interrupting him. I ignored his hand gesture and continued to grab his hand. He breaks away from the girl he was making out with and scowls at me. What do you want? Can't you see that I am a little busy here? Michael, I think there is something wrong with Katalia. She was supposed to meet me here at 8, but it is now after 9 and she isn't answering her phone. I called your house and your brother told me that she left shortly before 8. I have a feeling that something is wrong with her. Okay. Okay. I will help you locate her and then you will see that everything is fine. We searched the entire pack and could not find her. Michael checked with the guards that were posted at the entrance to the pack borders and they have not seen her. Michael and I looked at each other and I could tell that he was starting to worry about her too. We both decided to check the woods between the two packs to make sure that she did not get lost or run into any extra trouble. We were walking for about 5 minutes when I heard a low cry. I look at Michael and he puts his finger to his mouth, telling me to stay quiet. The crying continues and I can't tell if it sounds like Katalia, but whoever it is sounds like they need our help. We continue to quietly trek through the woods, being careful to avoid rustling any leaves and twigs. As we step through a clearing, we spot 3 rogues hovering over a body. As soon as they sense our presence, they take off running. I ran into the clearing, only to see the girl lying on the hard forest floor, curled into a ball. Michael rushes past me and barks orders at me to call both of our fathers and to have the pack doctor come with them. Only then did I realize that Katalia was the one lying on the forest floor. It was hard to recognize her. Her brown hair was a tangled mess, matted with her blood. I could make out the blood running down her thighs, the bruises that were covering her arms and legs, the hickeys that were covering her entire body. She looked like they had ravaged her body and did not leave anything remaining. She looked so small, so broken. My Katalia! My friend! I pulled my phone out and dialed the Alpha first. He answers after the second ring. Oliver, what is it? Is everything all right? No, Alpha Michael. I need you to come to the forest that is between our pack and the Crimson Sunday. Katalia was attacked and looks to be severely injured. Can you bring my father and the pack doctor with you? I am on my way. Don't move her, we will come to you, Oliver. Yes, Alpha, I mumbled. I hung up the phone and looked at Michael. He had just picked Katalia up and was about to start moving with it. Stop! Michael, the Alpha told us to remain here and my father, him, and the pack doctor will meet us here. I look at Katalia's damaged body and it finally hits what those rogues had to have been doing to her. I felt the tears start to trail down my face. If only I had decided not to bother Katalia and decided to hang out with her at her house like we usually do. Why did I go in without her? Why didn't I wait for her like we had originally planned? Now she has been injured and it is completely my fault. We didn't have to wait long for the Alpha and my father to show the pack doctor. The Alpha rushed to his daughter's side and picked her up out of Michael's arms. My father walked over to me, and he asked me what happened to her. I recounted the events to him, and I started to break down. I told him how it was all my fault that she was injured and that they hurt her. My father wraps me in his arms and tries to gently reassure me that everything will be all right and that Katalia is fine. I looked up into my father's eyes and mumbled, I am a failure, Dad. I failed as a future beta of this pack. I should not have allowed anything to happen to her. My father squeezes me tighter and whispers that it was not my fault and that there was not anything that I could have done to help her. He tells me that if I had been there, then the goddess only knows what they would have done to me, but I could use this experience to better improve my skills, so that I will be able to protect her next time. She has been out for 2 days. The doctor said that it was her body trying to adjust to the trauma. Michael and I have not left her side. Her parents come and go, and they stay when they can. Both of our parents have tried to convince us to go back to our houses and shower and eat something. I honestly don't think I will be able to eat anything until she wakes up and I see that she is okay. She looks so fragile, so broken. She hadn't moved, there had been no sound besides our breathing. The doctor said that she was brutally raped. From the looks of it, it looked like there were multiple attackers, which makes sense since we saw 3 rogues when we arrived. Katalia's father is on a war path. He had been sending warriors out on search parties looking for the rogues that attacked his daughter. Michael, do you think she will be okay? I hesitantly asked him. Honestly, I don't know. I'm worried that is why she hasn't woken up. She has endured too much trauma for her body and her mind to comprehend. Maybe everything will be okay. I can only hope. I miss my friend. I miss hearing her voice. I miss seeing her bright blue eyes brighten when she gets excited or watching her eyes darken when she gets upset. Chapter 2. Katalia, Darkness. That is all that I saw. I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to relieve my trauma. I didn't want to see the pity on the pack members' faces when they realized what happened to me. Why couldn't they have just killed me? What could I have done differently? Why did the moon goddess think that I deserved this? I am only 13, not yet old enough to have my wolf, but I have already suffered greatly. They took my innocence. They took my joy. My happiness. My birthday was in 2 weeks, but I could not see anything worth celebrating. I slowly feel myself regaining consciousness. My fingers begin to twitch, and I try to wiggle my toes. I heard a gasp and I felt someone grasped my hand. Katalia. Come back to us. It is okay. You can wake up. No one will hurt you again. Michael. My brother was here. I remember Oliver and him finding me after the rogues left. I remember Michael starting to pick me up and then blackness. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around the room. Everything was white and it smelled sterile. I must be in the pack hospital. I saw Michael sitting on one side of my bed and Oliver sitting on the other side. Oliver gets up and opens the door to my room. He poked his head out and asked one of the passing nurses to get the doctor that he had finally woken. Several nurses rushed into my room with the doctor. The doctor looks at Michael and Oliver and tells them that they need to leave my room while I am being examined. Once they leave, the doctor stands next to my bed looking at my heart and blood pressure monitors. I started to shrink away from her and tried to curl into a ball on the other side of my bed, tears streaming down my face. If you prefer to have only female nurses in here, Katalia, then let me know. I can leave at any point in time if you feel uncomfortable with males in the room. I slowly nodded my head, indicating that I would rather he left the room. The lead nurse, Emily, began to ask me questions about what happened to me and my pain level. I try to explain to her the best I could what happened, but whenever I try to say what happened, I am thrown into a flashback, and I start to tremble. Katalia, I am going to have to examine you. At any point in time when you are uncomfortable, you can tell me to stop. We, also, are going to have to get some blood work done, just to make sure that everything else is okay. I slowly nodded my head at Emily, and she gave me a small smile. Katalia, I am going to need you to speak. I cannot continue until you verbally agree with everything that I am going to do. I will walk you through each step and at the end, you will have to verbally confirm that you understand. Do you understand? I tried to speak, but nothing came out. One of the other nurses handed me a glass of water and I chugged it. When I opened my mouth, the words came out, but it sounded like I hadn't used my vocal cords in months. My throat was scratchy and hoarse. Okay, I understand. Emily completed the exam and asked me if I was up for any visitors. She told me that my parents, brothers, and the Beta's family were waiting to see me. She said that no one in the pack knew what had happened besides the ranked pack members and the staff that was assigned to my case. I apparently had 2 warriors always stationed outside of my room. I quickly shook my head no. I wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to have to pretend that everything was okay, that I wasn't dying on the inside. I wanted all the pain and all the suffering to end. I wanted the memories to disappear. Emily assured me that she understood that I wanted to be left alone and she would let my visitors know. Once the nurses left and I was alone once again, I just laid in the bed and cried. I cried all my pain, sorrow, anger, and frustration. I shouldn't have gone by myself, should have had a warrior escort me. I knew my parents were going to be upset when I finally had the courage to face them. They were going to be incredibly angry that I went to this party and remind me that I am the Alpha's daughter. I should have used better judgment. I spent the next several hours alone in my room. I could feel that my eyes were puffy, and I can only imagine how red they are. They felt like sandpaper. There is a knock on the door and then it opens to reveal Emily bringing me food. She sets it on the table and asks me how I am feeling. I just shrug my shoulders. She told me that the doctor wanted to release me in the morning to my family. I just nodded my head and continued to start into space. Once she leaves the room, I pick up the tray and take it to the trash. I am not hungry, even though I can tell that it has been several days since I have eaten. I lay down and closed my eyes, hoping that I was able to get some sleep. My dreams are plagued by nightmares about what happened to me. I woke up screaming. One of the nurses and the warriors outside my room rush inside to check on me. I smiled at them and told them that I was fine, just had a rough dream. I was glad to see that when my parents decided to station the warriors outside of my room, they stuck with female warriors. I am not ready to face the male population. Instead of going back to sleep, I just lay there until the sun rose and the nurse came back in, accompanied by the female pack doctor. Katalia, how are you feeling? Do you think you will be comfortable if we release them to the care of the Alpha and Luna? The doctor asked me. I am okay, I guess. I am ready to go home. The doctor goes to get my release papers. She tells me that she understood that I struggled with sleeping last night, so she was going to prescribe some sleeping medication, as well as some pain medication since I haven't received my wolf yet. I idly nodded my head and she nodded. Last night, I had an epiphany. I will not allow them to break me. I am done with the crying and feeling sorry for myself. I will come back from this stronger. I will become a queen. Chapter 3. The next 2 weeks passed by in a blur. I was doted on when I went home. My brothers and Oliver did not want to leave my side and I constantly had 2 female warriors shadowing me. It took a week for me to convince my family that I was going to be okay and that they could stop hovering. On the second day that I was released, I convinced my father to allow me to train with Michael for his alpha training. Not so I could be the next alpha, so that I could learn better self-defense. I never want to be in that position again. I never want to feel so helpless or feel so used. So, every day, I went to regular pack training. I spent 3 hours training with Michael and my father, and I also attended the beta training with Oliver. Then, every day, after all my training, I attend therapy with the pack therapist for an hour a day. This became my pattern. This was my life. It is now one day before my birthday and I can honestly say that while I am not completely happy, I am content. I am not always depressed and sad. However, for the past day and a half, my head has been pounding and nothing I do can take away the pain. It is like a dull throb inside my head that is constant. I walked to my dad's office in the pack house. He told me that he had wanted to see me before training started. Before I get the chance to knock on the door, it opens and my dad steps aside to allow me to enter. Katalia, how are you doing? I just wanted to check up on you and see how you were coping. I am doing as well as I can, Dad. I am putting all my effort into training, so that I can learn to better protect myself. However, I have been having this dull throb in my head, like a migraine, that I can't seem to get rid of. Have you seen the pack doctor for the pain? I shook my head no. I don't really want to go to the park hospital. Every time I go near there, I think about the last time that I stepped foot in the pack hospital, and I get lost in the flashbacks. Make sure you go and get it checked out. The reason I called you here was because we recently had a family transfer into the pack, and I know that typically I have you and Michael, the new kids around the pack and introduce them to others around. However, I do not know if you will be up to it. There are 3 children in the family. Justin is the oldest and he is 17. He is training to be a pack warrior. Once he hits 18, he will officially become a warrior for our pack. Then, Jessica is his younger sister, and she is 12. Lastly, there is Michaela, and she is 7. I know that you have been avoiding the pack males for the last couple of weeks, so I wasn't sure if you would be comfortable with showing Justin around. I can always have Michael do it if you are too uncomfortable. I look at my father and contemplate what he is asking me to do. I really don't want to show Justin around, but I think I will be fine with the other 2 siblings. I'm fine with the younger 2, but I don't think I am ready to face anyone else of the opposite S***X. Can Michael or Elijah help Justin acclimate to the pack? Sure, sweetie. I will let Michael know that instead of training for the day, he will be showing Justin and his parents around. I turn to leave the opposite side and go to the front of the pack house, where I imagined Oliver was already waiting for me. I spot Oliver heading to the pack dining hall and he waves me over. Hey! I can't stay long. I have to meet with some new members of the pack and show them around. Do you want me to come with you? Nah, I think I will be fine. Plus, don't you have training with your father? I guess. Will you at least come to have dinner with me before you go? We continued to walk to the pack hall and get in line for our food. The pack hall is this huge room that is used for dining. It isn't a requirement to eat meals at the pack hall, but a lot of the members eat dinner here. I usually eat at home with my family unless I come to the pack hall with Oliver. We go through the line and get our food and go take a seat at one of the long tables. After 30 minutes, I told Ollie goodbye and headed to the front of the pack house, so that I could meet the new family. As I reach the entrance, I am hit by a big wave of pain and nausea. I fell to my knees and gripped my head. Beta Malcolm sees me on the ground and comes rushing over. As he picks me up off the ground and starts to head to the pack hospital, I feel as if something is trying to break through my head. It feels as if there is something there, but it is having a hard time reaching me. I groaned and turned my head onto the Beta's neck. The throbbing slows down to a steady throb as we reach the Pack Hospital. Several hours have passed and I am still at the Pack Hospital. Michael had gone ahead and shown Justin and his siblings around the Pack for me. My father showed up shortly after the beta took me to the Pack house. Now, the doctor is in the room with us, and she is explaining to my father the results of the tests and labs that they had run. Alpha, we can't see anything that is majorly wrong with Katalia. The symptoms that she is showing are as if her wolf is trying to break free. But how can that be possible? There are no records of any adolescent receiving their wolf before the age of 16. Katalia hasn't even turned 14 yet. I know it is strange, Alpha, but that is the only plausible explanation. I think her wolf is trying to break free because of the recent trauma that Katalia has experienced. I have heard of only a few instances that aren't widely known in the supernatural community, where wolves have come before the child's 16th birthday due to some type of trauma that the child has experienced. My father isn't wrong. Wolves don't shift until their 16th birthday and then on their 17th birthday they are able to sniff their mates. I used to be excited about meeting my mate and finding something like the love that I see between my parents, but now I realize that I do not need a man. I am my own person and I refuse to let a mate define me. Plus, I am still weary of men after what happened a few weeks ago. Most men make me cringe. So far, I have only been able to stomach my family and Oliver and his family. Those are the only males that I have allowed to come near me, and I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. The pain comes back full throttle and I grip my head again. I just want to lay down and rest. I looked at the doctor and my father asked them if there is any way that I can stay here tonight, so that I can try to get some rest. Both agree and proceed to leave my room, with the door cracked. I laid down and began to toss and turn as I tried to get comfortable, but it seemed that nothing was working. I finally get comfortable, and I feel myself drifting off into a peaceful oblivion. Chapter 4. I woke to hear talking in my room. I opened my eyes and peeked around the room. Hello, I called out. No one responds. I repeat myself one more time and I am met with complete silence. Hello, Katalia, I hear a dull echo in my head. Who's there? I hesitantly responded. I am your wolf. My name is Sky, and I am so happy to finally get to meet you. Sky. My wolf's name is Sky. I am happy that I finally have my wolf, but I am scared about what this means. Am I ready to shift? I have not had the chance to finish the mandatory training that everyone partakes in before receiving their wolf. Katalia, I know this is scary and do not feel prepared, but I have to shift. I need you to get outside. It will be easier if you shift under the guidance of the moon. I promise you I will help you through the pain and I will take as much of the pain as you allow. I stumbled out of my bed and stumbled to the floor. One of the warriors rushes into the room, followed by the nurse. I felt the first crack of one of my bones and I screamed in agony. Hurry, let's get her outside. She is beginning the shift. Call the Alpha, he is going to need to be here for her. Family can help make the shift easier. The other warrior rushes into the room and picks me up and carries me through the hospital. Once we get outside, she gently lays me on the ground underneath the moon. I let out another gut-wrenching scream as I felt several more of my bones break. When my father and mother arrive, they each grab one of my hands and start whispering words of reassurance to me. They repeatedly told me I was doing a good job, they were proud of me, and that my wolf was going to be so pretty. I laid on the ground, yelling in agony, for 3 hours. Once it hit the 3rd hour, I let out another gut-wrenching cry that ended in a loud growl. I looked around and realized that I had finally shifted and that my pain was over. She's gorgeous, my mother whispers. I walked over to the nearby stream and looked at my reflection. I am completely white, with some grey undertones. As I continue to look at my reflection, I stare into the eyes of my wolf. She has bright blue eyes, with flecks of green. Besides the flecks of green, her eyes looked just like mine. Typically, when we shift, the eyes of our wolves are black or grey, and it is considered a rare occasion for our wolves to have the eyes of our human counterparts. I am proud of your daughter. I heard my father's voice through the mind link that I now have. Would you like to go on your first run as your wolf? I eagerly nodded my head and my father laughed. My mother and father both strip out of nightwear and shift into their wolves. My father's wolf is slightly taller than mine and he is pure black. My mother's wolf is much smaller in size, compared to my father and me, and she is completely grey with black eyes. Once they both shift, we bound into the surrounding woods. I feel Sky trying to push herself forward, so I allow her to move back into the far recesses of my mind and allow her the time to run and feel the wind through her fur. I have always heard how freeing it is running like your wolf, and I thought those people were just exaggerating. Usually it was the new shifters that would say that, but now I understand what they mean. I feel free, like there is nothing holding me back. Like I can do anything and do anything while I am in this form. We packed to head back to the packed hospital, where my parents left their clothes. They shift back and they look at me expectantly. How do I shift back? My father notices me hesitating and tells me that it is simple, to just think of my human form and to let my wolf take over from there. I clear my mind and picture what my human form looks like. I hear an audible crack and then I am kneeling on all fours, huffing, looking up at my father. One of the nurses appears and she brings me a gown to adorn. Katalia, would you like to come back to the house with us, or do you want to stay the rest of the night in the hospital? My mother questioned. If it is all right, I would like to go see Oliver. This is just a lot to take in and I want to process everything before the entire pack finds out. My mom nodded to her, stating that would be fine. She told me that Oliver ended up staying in the pack house, instead of at his parents' house, so I should be able to find him without disturbing anyone else. I headed over to the pack house and headed up to where the beta's suite was. Ollie usually stayed in the same room whenever he slept in the pack house, so I automatically knew which suite to go to. I knock on the door, and I don't have to wait long before the door opens to reveal my best friend. Katalia, what are you doing here? Is everything all right? Ollie asked me. I motioned at the door, and he let me in. When he shuts the door, the tears start to flow down my face. Ollie, I got my wolf today. I feel like such a freak. How can I get my wolf this early? This wasn't meant to happen. We were meant to shift together, we do everything together. I cried out. Ollie walks over to me and pulls me to his bed and sits down next to me. There is nothing wrong with you, Katalia. You will get through this, and I will be here every step of the way. I nodded my head and lay my head down on his bed. I sniffled a few times and he wrapped his arms around me. I lay there in his arms, happy and content, until I drifted into sleep. Chapter 5. 2 years later, 2 years have passed since the day that I shifted for the first time. I remember being scared and hesitant. I was worried about what the pack would think. I felt like a freak. During those 2 years, I have continued my training. I advanced from the regular pre-wolf training to the advanced training that was usually reserved for the upcoming warriors of the pack. I had quickly risen to be one of the top-tier fighters within my pack. I stopped attending therapy about 1.5 years ago, feeling like I was ready to let go of that part of my past. I continued to attend alpha and beta training with my brother and Ollie. Ollie and I continued to grow closer if that was even possible. I knew that Ollie liked me and had developed a major crush, but I couldn't bring myself to reciprocate his feelings. I liked him, but I can't see myself as being more than friends with him right now. Plus, next year, we can both find our mates and it will just hurt us both in the end if we find out that we aren't mates. Plus, I still refused to let many guys get close to me. The new warrior that my father brought in, Justin, has tried several times to talk to me, even asked me out once, but I still couldn't do it. The memories were still too fresh, and I still struggled with trusting men. I was currently on the way to meet up with Michael. He told me that he had something important that he needed to discuss with me before he brought the topic up to our parents. I made my way to the training grounds where I was going to meet Michael. As I approached the training grounds, I saw Michael's silhouette leaning against the wall and it appeared he was talking to someone. As I got closer, I rolled my eyes when I realized who my brother was talking to. Cassidy. Otherwise known as the pack slut. I am pretty sure she has slept with most of the boys in the pack, and she has been trying to convince my brother for the past year to make her his Luna. He has repeatedly told her that he is waiting for his fated mate to be his Luna and no one else. He confided in me that she wasn't really Luna material, she was just more of a good. I approached Michael and cleared my throat. He spins around and his face splits into a broad grin when he sees me. Hey little sis, just the person I was waiting for. I give him a smile back and I look at Cassidy and move my hand in a shooing motion. I can stay if I want to. No one is making me go. Isn't that right, Michael? Cassidy says to me, while continuously glaring at me. Michael rubs the back of his neck and looks at the ground. Actually, Cass, I need you to go. I have some important stuff that I need to talk to Kat about and I don't need anyone else here to hear it. She looks at him in disbelief and storms off towards the pack house. What is with all the secrecy? I inquired. I actually wanted to talk to you about the alpha position, Kat. I am not sure I want to be alpha. I continued going through training all these years, hoping that I would eventually change my mind, but my heart just isn't in it. I love my pack and I love everything that we stand for. I just don't believe that I am equipped to lead. But I have been watching you, Kat. You have what it takes. You are kind-hearted, but tough. You are fair and equal. Everyone loves to be in your presence. You do not put up with anyone and you are a strong leader. Plus, Dad tells me all the time that I need to look at how you handle and portray yourself, constantly telling me how I could learn something from you. Plus, I admire how you bounced back from the incident that happened 2 years ago. I was worried those rogues would break you, but they have only made you stronger. And let's not forget the relationship that you have already built with the future rank wolves of the pack. You and Oliver are inseparable. While James is my best friend and the future Gamma, you still have a good relationship with you. He finishes in a rush. I observe my brother and consider what he is saying. I have felt like I needed more of a purpose within the pack, but is this really my calling? Can I handle running a pack by myself? And what if I find a mate? I will not back down to being a Luna. The alpha title would belong to me. Female alphas are highly uncommon. There has only ever been one female alpha in existence, and she was not born an alpha. She took over the pack and made herself the alpha. Michael, I am honored that you thought of me, but do you really think everyone would agree? What about the elderly? They will never agree to make me alpha over you. They have stated multiple times that they do not feel that women can run a pack. We must leave those types of roles to men. You and I both know they won't accept this change. Plus, Do you think the male warriors will follow me? Michael cuts me off. FK the elders. It is about time that they get with the program and get out of the ancient ways. You would make a good alpha and don't let anyone tell you any differently. Plus, as for the warriors, they are already following you, sis. Most of them look up to you already, even though you are several years younger than most of them. And I heard Justin has a crush on you, so I can imagine that if any of them decided to step out of line that he would automatically set them straight. We both know that being alpha just isn't in my heart, however, it is in your very soul. You are a true alpha female. We have all seen how big Sky is. She is almost taller than Dad and the same size as I am. Plus, we have all felt your aura. I can only imagine what it is going to feel like if you get true alpha power. You, my sister, are going to kick. Everyone knows it. Please tell me you will consider this. Consider taking this position from me. I know you will do well. I looked at my brother and nodded my head. I will do it, brother, but when are you planning on breaking it to Dad that you no longer want to be alpha? He snickered. I think Dad already knows I don't want the position. I have made subtle hints to him for the past 2 months. I think he suspects, but it is just waiting for me to man up and admit it. Dad might be a little mad that Michael didn't want the position anymore. Now that Michael is 18, Dad had already scheduled his alpha ceremony for 6 months from now. If I take the position from him, then Dad must wait until I am at least 18, which is almost 2 years. Dad was ready to retire and go traveling with Mom, without having to worry about the pack. Chapter 6. After we finished training, we headed to my father's office to talk to him about what Michael wanted to do. Once we reached his office, I knocked on his door and he told us to go in. Once inside, I went to the couch that he had inside of his office, which was usually my favorite place to go, unless I was in trouble. I was rarely the one in trouble. That spot was usually reserved for Elijah. That boy was usually in trouble at least once a week. Michael gulps and clears his throat. Dad, I have something I need to talk to you about. Dad looks at Michael and grins. I already know, son. I have known for the past year that your heart hasn't been into it. I have been waiting for you to come to me with your dilemma. I was already hoping that you would talk to Katalia and convince her to take alpha in your stead. I know Dad is upset that Michael didn't want his position, however, Dad also always let us make our own decisions when it came to our life. As he used to tell us all the time, our life is what we make of it. We make decisions that will ultimately affect our life, and if it is not a decision that we can't live with, then maybe it is a decision that we shouldn't make. Sky, do you think we have what it takes to be alpha and to run this pack? Yeah, Kot. We were not made to bow down to any alpha. We were made to lead, which is what we are gonna do. I chuckle. My wolf and I have 2 totally different personalities. I am more withdrawn and pessimistic, and Sky is outgoing and optimistic. Sky knows what she wants, and she goes for it. She is constantly telling me what our worth is and that we don't need to bow to anyone. Katalia, are you sure this is something that you want to do? If you choose to move forward as the next alpha, we will have to alert the elders and update your training regime, as well as begin your alpha training. Yes, Dad. I think that I can handle it. Plus, Sky is stoked about it. According to her, this is the greatest thing to have happened to us since the invention of sliced bread, and she is glad that Michael chose to step down. She said we were always meant to be an alpha. My dad grinned widely and told me that he was going to let our mom know and that we were both expected to attend dinner at home tonight. We both acknowledged our agreement and left Dad's office. I decided I was going to go find Ollie and tell him the news. I find Ollie on the training grounds with his father. It looked like they were finishing up their training for the day. I stood there staring at Ollie, waiting for him to finish with his father. I watched his dark blonde hair whip in the wind and his muscles contract as he goes into dodge and to counterattack his father's moves. I have heard the rumors within the pack. I am not deaf. I know most of the pack, especially the older pack members, believe that Oliver is going to be my mate. I just don't know that I want a mate. I know Ollie wouldn't try to control me, but I just can't envision being tied to him or any male. After I was brutally raped by those rogues, my outlook and thoughts concerning male wolves changed. I don't know if I would ever be willing to have S***X. And most male wolves are concerned about having an heir, and that is something I am not sure that I could handle. I used to want to be a mother, used to want a family, but that all changed that day. I was content to grow up, live, and die alone. My father was upset the day that I decided to stop going to therapy. Apparently, the therapist thought that I was not over it and able to move on, and I guess in a sense she was right. But it felt as if she was constantly telling me the exact same thing each session. It wasn't my fault. I am okay. I am not broken. But I feel broken. I feel that it is my fault, and honestly, I don't feel okay. Those are the emotions and feelings that I keep bottled up inside of me. These feelings are part of the reason that I do not want a mate. I can't handle being tied to a man, any man, even if it is one that I am so close to that I used to be able to see myself falling in love with. Before the attack, I believe I did love him, or, at the very least, had a crush on him. Katalia. Ollie's voice pulled me out of my own thoughts. I looked over at him and realized he was running over to me. What are you doing here? Did I forget something? I shake my head and chuckle. Ollie is always worrying that he is forgetting something, which, let's be honest, most of the time he is forgetting something. I smiled. No, I thought you were almost done with training, so I decided to come see if you wanted to hang out before I go to leave to go have dinner with my family. Sure, let me see if Dad needs anything before I head off. I might need to stop by the pack house and shower. I smell and I am sweaty. I know you usually aren't willing to get close to me after training. Ollie ran to go talk to his father. After he leaves, as I am waiting for his return, I hear someone coming up behind me. I whipped around, ready to attack, only to realize that it was Justin. Hey, Katalia, what are you up to? Justin asked innocently. Justin has had a crush on me since he moved to the pack. Consistently trying to ask me on dates. In the beginning, I would use the excuse that he was too old for me or that I was not old enough to be dating. He is 5 years older than me, and while I will admit that I feel oddly comfortable around him, I was not willing to give it a shot. I just don't like male attention. Nothing, just getting ready to hang out with Ollie. Oh, well, I was wondering if you wanted to go to a movie tonight with me? Several of the warriors and I were going to go out, and I just wanted to see if you might want to go with us. I think Michael will be there too if that makes it easier for you. I hesitated, contemplating a way to let him down gently without sounding. Justin, I don't think I really want to go out tonight. I was supposed to have a quiet dinner with the family and then I needed to do some homework. With all these extra trainings I have been partaking in, I have fallen behind on my homework. Justin sighs. Okay, I understand, but if you want some help with your homework, I am more than happy to skip the movies to come help you. I am sure your father won't mind. After all, we can't have the princess failing any of her classes. Thanks for the offer, Justin, but I think I am gonna study alone. If I need help, I will send you a text. Ollie finally came back and asked if I was ready to go. I eagerly nodded my head, and we began to walk off. I hesitantly turned around and saw Justin staring at us, watching us walk away. I waved my hand and gave him a little smile. He smiles back and waves at me. Justin is sweet and I could see myself becoming good friends with him, but I don't want to get his hopes up of anything happening between us. Plus, if we aren't friends, then there are no set of expectations. We walked back to the pack house in silence. Once we get to the beta floor, we go to the room that Oliver uses while he is at the pack house. He grabs a quick change of clothes and goes into the bathroom. He leaves the door open, so that we can talk to each other while he showers. I laid down on his bed as I heard the shower start. Ollie, you would not believe what Michael decided to do. Well, actually, you probably could. It hasn't been much a secret, even Dad suspected it. Ollie laughed. What did Michael decide to do? He decided to step down from his role as Alpha, said he wasn't ready for it. He asked me to become Alpha in place of him, said that I was already a great leader, and I was an Alpha female, so the idea wasn't that far-fetched. Caught, are you serious? That is wonderful news, but I am shocked that he asked you. I assumed that if he decided to give up the idea of being Alpha, that they would have asked the next one in line, which would have been Elijah. Although I really can't see your youngest brother being Alpha. He doesn't have a serious bone in his body. I laughed at his reaction. He isn't wrong about Elijah. Elijah is a giant goofball. He constantly gets into trouble for the pranks that he likes to play on the teacher and being a disruption in class. Then, when he gets home, Michael and I must hear Mom and Dad lecture him and, consequently, us about our duties as the children of Alpha and Luna and how we shouldn't embarrass the family. Yes. He asked me and I decided to do it. I am just worried about the elders and the older pack members not accepting me. I am not trying to cause a revolution because my brother and father think that I would make a good Alpha. FK the elders! Oliver yelled. The old bats have no right to tell you what you are capable of doing. You know this, what would they have done if you were your parents' only child? Not allow the Alpha to step down until he had a male heir. You and I both know they would eventually have given in. You just need to fight for what you deserve. You are worth so much more than what you believe, and it is time that you started seeing it. I stayed quiet for several minutes, not wanting to tell Oliver how I really felt. He usually gets upset when I start talking about myself. Always telling me that I am worth more than what I give myself credit for. Caught, he isn't wrong. I wish you would just listen to him. We can be Alpha, and we will make a good one too. Sky chimes in. She is always the optimist too, and she usually says something smart whenever I start talking negatively about myself. Ollie walks into the room, shirtless, drying his hair with a towel. As he is walking to the seat on the bed with me, I can't help but admire his body and his abs that he has left on display. When is the Alpha announcing you are taking Michael's spot? Oliver inquires. Honestly, I don't know. I think he wants to tell the elders first and then call at a pack meeting and tell everyone else. He is also worried about how the elders will respond. He just doesn't want them to make a big scene during his announcement, I responded. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. Oh no, if I don't leave now, then I will be late for dinner. Mom hates it when we are late. I got up and gave Ollie a quick hug and told him that I must run to dinner. I race through the pack house, so that I can quickly get home. I make it home just as it hits 5:55. I made it on time, so Mom can't complain about how I was late, and it isn't good to be late as a member of the Alpha family. Chapter 7. Justin POV Katalia Frost. The Alpha's daughter. She was a mystery. When my family first moved to this pack, I was excited about getting to meet her. I have heard many great things about her. My family came from the Twilight Sun pack, which is about 2 hours away from Bloodstorm. I had heard of Michael Sr., the current alpha, and his kids from my home pack. Bloodstorm had some of the top-tier warriors in the country, and most packs, including my own, had sent their future warriors and even current warriors here to train. They would talk about Alpha's children like they had known them her entire life, so to say I was eager to meet them was an understatement. I wanted to see if the rumors about them were true. Much to my surprise, Michael, the eldest and future Alpha, was the one that had given my family and I a tour of the pack. I waited several months to meet Katalia and still had yet to lay eyes on her. I had met both of her brothers, Michael and Elijah, but no sign of her. I had heard from some of the warriors that there was an incident right before my family moved to the pack that had traumatized Katalia and she had completely changed. No one was willing to talk about the incident, but they all knew something had happened to her. My first day meeting Katalia, I was helping Gamashan and Michael lead the training for the advancement class, otherwise known as the class, that the future warriors were being pulled from. From what I understood, it was Katalia's first day in this class and I was shocked. Not many alpha daughters had an interest in training. I will admit she kicked. During training, I watched her take on opponent after opponent, most of whom were bigger, stronger, and bulkier than she was, but that did not deter her. She was phenomenal. The only one that was able to take her down was Michael, but even he had some difficulty. I have heard that they are evenly matched in skill level. Michael is only considered slightly more advanced because he is the next alpha. I liked Katalia. I haven't had any interactions with her face to face, but just from watching her during training. She is a force to be reckoned with. Don't get me wrong, Katalia is gorgeous with her wavy, long dark brown hair with red streaks which are prominent when the light hits her in the perfect way, or the way that her bright blue eyes sparkle when she talks, or the way she holds herself in conversations. Those are great things about her, but I have enjoyed watching her interact with the other pack members. She treats everyone with respect. Even after kicking them, she helps them up and makes sure she did not badly injure them. She makes sure they are set before she decides to move on to her next opponent. Plus, she has skill. Lots of it. Those are the reasons that I like her. Since that day, I have asked Katalia out several times, but she always shoots me down as if she isn't interested or magically has something to do every time. I want to take her out. Since she had shot down any of my advances, I told Gamashan that I would take any of his training shifts if he wanted. I am sure that Michael knows the exact reason that I would like to have the training sessions. It is the only way that I can see her and spend any type of time with her. Imagine my shock a couple of days ago when Michael asked for a word with me. Flashback: I had just finished leading another grueling training session for the upcoming warriors when Michael asked me to hang back, so that we could talk about something important. I waited until the last person had left the training field and made my way to Michael. I fall in step with him as we make our way to the training outhouse to grab our stuff out of the lockers. "You like my sister, don't you?" Michael bluntly stated. I answered for a second before I answered, "Yeah, I kind of do. But every time I try to get close to her, she shoots me down. She always has an excuse as to why she can't hang out. It is frustrating." "Yeah, she is going to continue to do that, unfortunately. All you can do is give her a chance. Keep asking her. Try to build a friendship with her. She doesn't want a mate or a boyfriend. She doesn't want a man, period. The only male she is comfortable with besides her family is Oliver, and I am pretty sure that is because they grew up with each other. They have been pretty much joined at the hip since birth. I waited for Michael to continue. He looked like he was struggling with something that he wanted to say, but not sure if it was something that he should say. She had a real rough patch right before you moved to the pack, and I don't think she ever pulled herself from that rut. She says she is okay, but everyone can tell that she is not okay. Her trauma isn't something that can heal overnight, and while it has been years, 4 years to be exact, I don't think she is over it. Although she says that she is fine. She isn't. How does that help me, Michael? What happened to her? Warriors were telling me what she used to be like before I came to the pack, but all anyone will tell me is that she had a traumatic experience, and only the ranked members of the pack truly know what happened to her. I am sorry, Justin, it is not my story to tell. It is Katalia's story. I know that is hard to accept, but just try. I am asking you to try and give her a chance. I just want to see her happy, and I think you could make her happy if she was able to overcome her obstacles and trauma. Try to be her friend first. She needs a friend, and, unfortunately, because you are a male, she is going to try and avoid you to the best of her ability. When asking her to go anywhere with you, do not phrase it in the form of a date, and make sure there are other presents, either females or Oliver and myself. She is the most comfortable with us. Don't get discouraged if her friends zone you, which she will. She might be willing to become your friend, but it will be a distant friend, and she will try to put as much space as she can between you and her. Just give her a chance, and maybe if you get her to trust you, she will tell you about her trauma, and maybe you can help her through her pain. Try not to pressure her, and it might be wise to treat her as if she is a ticking time bomb that can go off at any second. End of flashback. My conversation with Michael is what led me to change my tactics. So, I had gotten several of the guys and their girls together and asked if they might want to go to the movie, and everyone had agreed. Now, all I had to do was convince Katalia, which I failed at. I was hoping, since Michael had said that he would come, that it would ease her mind and help her be comfortable enough to come. No such luck. She used her family dinner and homework as an excuse. Since she had turned me down, I didn't feel like I was in the mood to go to the movies with them anymore. I sent everyone a quick text and told them something had come up, but they were welcome to go without me. I didn't feel like going home, and I needed to blow off some steam after her rejection, so I decided to go to Garrison's, one of the Warriors' parties that he was throwing tonight. I haven't been to one of Garrison's parties in a few months. Garrison always threw a good party with good alcohol. Hopefully, that has not changed. Several hours had passed since the end of training, and I was heading to Garrison's for the party. As I entered the house, the smell of alcohol and pheromones filled my nostrils. I spotted Garrison at the back of the makeshift bar and headed his way. He greets me by punching my arm and telling me that Anna has been looking for me, wondering if I was coming to the party tonight. Anna and I are nowhere near exclusive. She had just been a good FK, and that was all that I thought of her. We had a deal that this was purely physical, no emotions, no feelings attached. As soon as one of us started to get feelings, then we would break it off like nothing had happened. I have had to remind her of the stipulations of our deal several times over the course of the past month. I know I should have broken it off several times by now, but like I said, she is a good FK. She has been trying to convince me to take her as my chosen mate, which I have repeatedly told her that will never happen. The only one that I wanted as my mate was the fated mate the moon goddess would bless me with. My wolf, Aries, does not like Anna and does not want to be around her. He usually complains when she is around and chastises me for screwing around her. I told him I had needs and we hadn't met our fated mate yet, so I was allowed to FK with who I wanted. I feel a pair of arms wrap around my waist from behind. I get a whiff of her cheap perfume and slowly turn around. Speak of the devil and she shall appear. What are you doing, handsome? She tries to seductively whisper in my ear. Just enjoying the party. I responded in a clipped tone. She grabs my hand and starts pulling me away. How about we take this to one of Garrison's rooms and create our own party? I considered turning her down, but then decided to FK it. I am horny and I want some type of release. She is willing, so why not? Nothing is stopping me from her brains out. We made our way to the room and soon as I shut the door behind us, I slammed her roughly against the wall, wrapped my hand around her slender throat, and roughly kissed her. I hear the door open and a voice, "What is going on in here?" Chapter 8. Justin's POV. What is going on in here? I pause my movements and Anna groans with disapproval. I recognized that voice. This doesn't look good for me. It will get back to Katalia and I will never have a chance with her. Before I even get the chance to pull out, I am thrown against the wall. Michael grabbed Anna's clothes off the floor and thrust them in her direction and yelled at her to get out of the room. As she leaves the room, I barely have time to react before Michael is on top of me throwing punch after punch in my face. I finally got my bearings and threw Michael off me. "What man?" I said as I stood up and got into my warrior stance, remaining on guard in case he lunged at me again. "Why were you looking for some random girls? What happened to a few hours ago when you claimed that you wanted to get to know Kot and you were serious about wanting to see if you could be more than casual friends? Is this the thing that came up that prevented you from going to the movies with us tonight and cancelling? You can't pretend that you are into someone 1 second and then decide that you are going to FK around the next. Stay away from my sister. My sister does not need a scumbag like you." Before I got the chance to explain or try to salvage the small relationship I had with Michael, he was storming out of the room and slamming the door in my face. I royally FK up. I should have turned Anna away. I knew that, but could Katalia really be mad about this? We aren't even together. We aren't even considered friends. I was serious about Kot and I did want to get to know her, but it is disheartening to be turned away every time that I try to ask her out or even get to know her. Michael, I can't believe the bastard did that. Who professes their intentions for someone only to be caught in bed with another female ball deep a few hours later? I am fuming that I am struggling to focus on my surroundings. I need to get out of here. I need somewhere quiet to think. I rushed out of Garrison's house and headed to the edge of the forest, quickly stripped out of my clothes and shifted into my giant, black wolf. Gray, my wolf, has a different view of what happened and how I should have handled things. How could Katalia even be mad at Justin? They mean nothing to each other. You completely overreacted. I understand that he said he wanted to get to know her, but even getting to know each other doesn't always mean an instant couple. It would have taken time for them to get to know each other and get to that stage. If your sister accepts her mate or takes a chosen mate, do you really think she is going to expect them to be a virgin and untouched? No, but I did not expect to find him balls deep in the pack slut. Anna tries to sleep with anything that has 2 legs. And I did not expect this, not even 24 hours after he professed his intentions towards Kot. I responded angrily. Humans are sometimes stupid, Gray scoffs, you overreacted. You should not have attacked him. He technically did nothing wrong. You, however, did when you attacked him. I normally stand by everything that you do and agree is right, but I can't stand this. Currently, Justin has no ties to Kot and should be allowed with whoever he wants. My wolf has a point. Maybe I did overreact. However, I am not going to go back and apologize. I am going to wait a little and give myself time to cool down tonight before I approach Justin again. My mind began to wander back to the events at dinner and what my family and I discussed, then the conversation that I had with my father once Kat went to her room. Flashback at dinner, we celebrated Kat's decision to step up as alpha and change history as we know it for werewolves. We talked about how Kat's training was going to differ, and I assured her I would be there if she needed help with anything. Once Kat went to her room, I had a conversation with my father in his office. After Kat was raped, my father relentlessly pursued the bastards that had taken away her innocence. I remembered what they looked like and the distinct smells that they had. The rogues were triplets. Triplets raped my baby sister. I will never forget the look in her eyes when I found her or what she looked like when she finally woke up in the PAC hospital. I shared the images with my father and they're sent in the PAC mind link. Ever since that day, my father has hunted the bastards down, but with no leads. Any news yet? I asked my father. Possibly. Another PAC had an incident recently occurred, where 3 rogues, who appeared to be identical triplets, attacked and raped one of the members of their pack. One of the rogues dropped something and the pack doctor is analyzing it to see if they can find any DNA that can be used to identify the rogues. They had to have come from somewhere and, hopefully, with DNA we can identify the pack they originally came from before being made rogue. Dad, if we are able to identify these men and find them, when you go to hunt them down, can I come with you? My father was about to interject, when I cut him off. Alpha, I don't want you to answer this question as my father, but rather as my alpha. Not only does Katalia need some form of closure, but I need closure too. Oliver and I were the ones that found her, and I have not been able to get the image of her broken body out of my head. After the attack, I had nightmares about the condition that I found her in. I was just better at hiding my distress and pain than Kat is, but it affected me too. And I am sure that it affected Oliver too. We love her, Dad, we just want to help put to rest the trauma that she has had to endure. I finished in a rush. Son, can I speak now? I was not going to tell you that you were not allowed to come hunt down the bastards. I knew that you would want to come and, if and when the time came, I was also going to offer the same liberty to Oliver, even though he was still underage. I knew about the nightmares, but I also knew you were stubborn and would refuse any kind of help from me or your mother. So, we decided to leave you alone. We knew that if and when you were willing to accept our help, you would let us know and we would be there for you. I sat there in silence, stunned. I thought I was hiding it well. I didn't realize that Mom and Dad were seeing through my facade. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate it. Son, we always have your back and we know you need some form of closure too. We all do. Go ahead and run along. I know you said that you had some movie plans tonight. Those plans have actually changed, Dad. Justin changed his plans. I think it had something to do with Kat turning down his invitation to hang out, since that was his motivator for wanting all of us to go to the movies. Instead, Garrison is having one of his parties and I am going to head over there for an hour or so. Dad chuckled and shook his head. That poor boy is going to be in for a rude awakening with your sister. She just doesn't like men and this boy is going to continue to pursue her. I laughed and agreed with him as I walked out of the room, headed to my room to change my clothes, and make my way to Garrison's party. End of flashback. To think that my dad was going to let me go hunt down the bastards that harmed my sister and he was even going to offer the same thing to Oliver. I can't wait to get my hands on the bastard that harmed her. My mind drifts and I start to think about the alpha position. I used to want to follow in my father's footsteps, but shortly after my alpha training started, I realized that I had other aspirations and things I wanted to accomplish that just wouldn't have been possible if I was alpha. I already knew Kat was going to make a good alpha. Kat had the drive and the patience. She was hardcore and she knew how to command a room with her presence, plus she was just and fair, with her loyalty never wavering from her pack. I had finally calmed down and I started to make my way to the pack house. I think I am going to check on Kat before I go to bed, just to see how she is doing. I noticed that nights were generally harder for her, so I typically tried to check on her at nights and make sure she was okay before bed. Chapter 9. Katalia's POV. I was lying on my bed when there was a knock on the door, followed by Michael opening my door. This has become his nightly routine. He comes into my room each night before bed and checks on me to make sure that I am all right. Tonight, though, feels different. He wasn't in his normal clothes, he actually looked like he just got done rolling in the mud, which I guess is possible with the way his wolf acts. "You all right, Kat?" he asked me as he walked into my room and propped himself on the nightstand by my bed. "Yeah, I have just been thinking and trying to do some homework." "What movie did you go see? Was it any good?" Well, actually I decided not to go to the movies. Justin ended up cancelling, so most of us did our own thing. I decided to let Gray out and go for a run. He has been begging me to be let out for a couple of days, but I am usually too busy to be able to let loose and go for a run just for of it. I giggled. That makes sense. His wolf constantly wants to be let out, which isn't unusual. Most wolves do. I am glad that he was able to have some alone time, which he usually doesn't get when he was training to be the next alpha. Once Michael left my room, I walked to my bathroom and grabbed my bottle of antidepressants, anxiety medication, and my sleep aids. My parents don't know that I have been taking them and I don't plan to let them know. The nightmares have hit an all-time high. I lied to my parents the first year after the attack and told them that I was fine and the nightmares had finally stopped, but the truth was I was too ashamed to admit that I was still suffering and struggling. So, I resorted to the next best thing. I went to the pack doctor and told her that, because of client-patient confidentiality, she was not allowed to tell anyone about the pills that she had prescribed to me. I assured her that I was pretty much fine, but I just needed something to take off some of the edge, which she said she understood. I even keep a bottle of the anxiety pills on me at all times, just in case I have a random panic attack when I am not at my house. Usually, I can feel the darkness of depression, or the sinking feeling of anxiety starting to creep in when I am out in public. When I get those feelings, I make some excuse to excuse myself from what I am doing and go to the alpha floor, if I can make it, in the pack house, and I take the pills and pray they help me before I feel the feelings of helplessness and despair begin to sink in. I don't leave the room until I feel back to normal, like you couldn't even tell that there was something wrong with me not even 5 minutes ago. I take my pills, lay down in my bed, and slowly begin to drift into unconsciousness. I am running through the woods, and I am being chased by 3 wolves. Smell like rogues. I keep running until I feel my lungs heaving, but I keep pushing myself further, struggling to stay ahead of the men that are chasing me. I know what will happen when they catch me, and no amount of fighting will be able to save me from this punishment. This pain. The pain I will feel when they inevitably catch me. I stumbled over a fallen log, and I lost some of my momentum. I fell to the ground after hearing a crack in my ankle. I hurriedly got up and continued running before they could catch me. "FK," I yelled. The pain that I feel in my ankle from my near fall is horrendous. I can already tell that I probably broke or fractured my ankle in at least 2 spots, and I needed to set it before it healed. My foot gets snagged on a log and I start to fall forward. My body instinctually tucked my body into a ball, so that I roll instead of falling face first. I screamed as I felt rough hands grab me from behind. "Leave me alone, filthy rogues!" I was tossed onto the ground, my shirt snagging on a branch. The first rogue grabbed my pants and ripped them from my body. The second rogue shredded my shirt, ripping my bra off in the process. The third rogue grabbed my hands and held them above my head. I was continuously screaming, hoping that someone was nearby to hear me. I didn't want to go like this. This wasn't supposed to happen. As the first rogue was spreading my legs, preparing to enter me, I heard another voice somewhere in the distance. "Katalia, wake up! You are okay. Come back to us, Kat. We are here for you. You can do it. Come on, Kat." The voice was whispering to me. I sat straight up in bed. My sheets were covered in my sweat. My hair was sticking to my head. My clothes were soaked to my body. My body was shaking. I could hear my heart racing as I tried to control it. Michael was gripping my arms, and as soon as I sat up, he yanked me over to him, and began to crush me in a giant hug. As soon as Michael started to hold me, I began to sob. Relentlessly sob. It had been months since I had a dream that was like that. I was terrified. Scared. Michael continued to hold me while I cried. By the time that my crying had turned into small whimpers, the sun was starting to peek through my curtains. Michael stayed in my room with me the rest of the night. And he called Oliver over, hoping that Ollie would be able to comfort me. He held me in his arms the rest of the night as I cried, and Michael was rubbing my back. They didn't say anything, just held me, which I was extremely grateful for. Oliver finally breaks the silence. "Are you going to tell us what that was about, or are you going to let us guess what caused that?" I remained silent. I didn't want to tell them. If I told them about the lingering trauma, I was worried they would go to Dad and tell him. Then, Dad would make me start going back to therapy, but therapy wasn't helping. "Come on, Kat, you have to tell us something. I was woken up in the middle of the night by your screams. When I ran in here, you were thrashing with tears running down your face. It took me 10 minutes to wake you up. You are lucky Mom, Dad, or Elijah didn't wake up from it. If you tell me, I promise I will not tell Dad about it." "I won't tell him about the dream, and Oliver won't either," Michael pleaded. Ollie nodded his head and agreed to what Michael had said. "Maybe it is time we told them what is going on, Kat. We can't keep doing this. We have been staying up at night to prolong having to sleep and the chance of a dream. You have been drowning yourself in pills, which isn't good for us either, love. Especially since it takes more than a normal dosage for it to affect you, since you are an alpha wolf. Please let them help. My poor wolf has been suffering through these dreams with me. She used to be the one that comforted me when I would wake up, reminding me that I was safe, reminding me that I had guards that were assigned to me that would never let anything happen to me. Sky once told me that when she felt the beginnings of the dream start in my subconscious, she would try to talk me out of the dream, but it was as if she didn't exist anymore. I couldn't hear her. Even in my dream, I couldn't feel her. Here goes nothing. I have been having dreams about what happened to me. Always the same rogues, always takes place in the woods, usually I wear a different outfit each time, and I am usually heading to do something. The dreams always take place before I got Sky, so it is even harder to defend myself," I whispered. Chapter 10. There was a pregnant pause before anyone said anything. I looked between Michael and Oliver, and they sat quiet, just looking at each other, with occasional glances at me. Katalia, why did you not tell anyone? Oliver finally broke the awkward silence. Oliver, what would I have told you? That I was not as fine as I made it seem? That I was struggling? Where would that have gotten me? Dad would have forced me to continue therapy, even though that wasn't working. In order to get what was necessary for me to be okay, I had to pretty much command the pack doctor to not say anything to Mom or Dad. I had to remind him that he was still bound to doctor/patient confidentiality and that I was more than old enough to make decisions for myself. If I hadn't threatened him, he would have run straight to Mom and Dad. Besides, I am sure that if I was a man, this type of conversation wouldn't have been necessary. The doctor wouldn't have questioned me if I said I needed something to help me cope. He would have signed the prescription and went on his way. Michael stared at me long and hard, like he was considering his words before he spoke. Oliver, she is right. If this was you or me, no one would have batted an eye, but she is a female and he would have felt that he needed to tell Mom and Dad. Caught, I wish you would have at least felt safe enough with Oliver or I and told us your secret. You have no idea the fear I had when I was woken by your screams, even though you hadn't even begun to stir. I was terrified something was happening to you. I couldn't get you to calm down. I had to have Oliver come over to help me calm you down, even then you fought us to calm down. I felt that I needed to knock you out just to get you to calm down, so that I could think of the best way to help you. Caught, you didn't have dreams like that the night that you came to my room after your first shift. Why did you have them last night? Oliver hesitantly asked. Usually, the dreams are worse if I am sleeping alone, or I don't feel safe. I feel safe with you, Ollie, so it helped me feel safe while I was sleeping. You can stay in my room if you need to. I am sure our parents won't mind, plus it wouldn't be the first time that we have stayed the night together. Our parents have never minded before, Oliver stated. We changed the subject and talked for another hour before my dad came into the room and told us breakfast was almost done. My dad didn't even blink when he saw that Michael and Oliver were in my room. Honestly, they probably wouldn't even think twice about it if they saw that I was staying the night with Oliver or vice versa, as they expected. After all, everyone in the pack thinks that Oliver is going to be my mate. Once the boys leave my room, I rise to take a quick shower and get dressed for training with my dad. He was going to put my body through a workout now that I am going to be going through alpha training. I headed downstairs and the smell of crispy bacon, French toast, and eggs wafted into me. My stomach grumbles at the thought of food. I headed to the kitchen and grabbed myself a plate. I began to pile my plate with plenty of bacon, eggs, and a couple of pieces of French toast. As I place the first heavenly bite into my mouth, I moan at the taste. French toast is one of my favorite breakfast items. Mom, this is so good. I mumbled around the food in my mouth. My mouth started to laugh at my reaction. I am glad you like it, sweetie. I cannot have you hungry for your first day of official alpha training. By the way, your father said that he is going to meet you on the training field. So, hurry up and finish your breakfast. You know your father does not like to be kept waiting. I hurriedly shoveled the rest of my breakfast, finished my orange juice, and rushed out the door, heading towards the training grounds. As I reached the pack grounds, I saw my father on the field training with Gamma Shan. I hurried to the locker rooms and placed my stuff in one of the lockers inside before I went to my father and the Gamma on the field. There she is. The female of the hour. Gamma Shan said as I approached them. I was waiting for you to take the role that you were destined for. I knew Michael did not want to be alpha, but I always knew you had the fire and soul to take the alpha position from your old man. I laughed at Gamma Shan. He normally took my side. Even when my brothers and I were younger, whenever the three of us, and Ollie, got into trouble, he would always come to my aid and assure my parents that it could not have been me because I was simply too innocent to have done what I was in trouble for. Secretly, he knew that it was all me, but like they said, I was the pack's princess, so even if I did get into trouble, my punishment was less than the boys'. My dad would say that Michael was older and knew better and Elijah was usually the ringleader, which was fine with me. Their punishments usually consisted of extra training with Dad and mine was usually grounding for 2 days, or not being allowed to hang out with Ollie for the night. "You ready, Kat?" my father asked. I slowly nodded my head. "We have a couple of ground rules that you need to follow as you enter Alpha training. 1. You are to address me as Alpha. During these training sessions, I am not your father. If I put myself into the role of your father, then I would not be able to do what is necessary to teach you. Before, when you entered these trainings with Michael, you were just joining to learn self-defense. Now you are joining in the endgame of becoming Alpha. You can either say Alpha or Alpha Michael. I do not care which you use. 2. For the first few weeks, Gamma Sean will be joining our sessions. He will be here to help me gauge your fighting level, skill level, and mastery level. He is only to be addressed as Gamma or Gamma Sean. 3. Occasionally we will bring in other warriors to further assess you and sometimes assess them. If they are a warrior with rank, you will need to address them using their rank as it shows respect to the warrior. 4. During these training sessions, as your brother will agree, we will test your endurance to certain herbs and plants considered to be lethal to our kind. Your endurance will also be tested when it comes to the Alpha command to see how strong of an Alpha you might become. Lastly, you are expected to be on the training grounds at 8 AM sharp, not a minute late. I do not tolerate tardiness and you will be punished accordingly. Do you understand these rules as I have explained them? Gamma Sean and my dad both turned their heads to me as I nodded and stated, in a strong and loud voice, "Yes, Alpha." Good. Today, we will be starting with some basic sparring. The first one to tap out wins. If I needed to step in, then it would be considered a draw. We are going to use this to assess what you have learned in your other training classes. Gamma Sean and I take our positions in the middle of the training field. Once in my position, my father blows his whistle to signal the fight starting. We begin to circle each other. As I circle him, I assess what his weak spots are. He has a slight limp in his left foot, and it doesn't look like he will be blocking his right side. I move to make the first lunge, curling my hand in a fist and aiming for his nose. He moves at the last second and my hand makes contact with his face, spurting blood all over his face. The Gamma recovers from my attack and charges towards me. I threw my forearms up to block my face, but he slipped to my left side. I angled my body towards him, but I was not fast enough to block the elbow that he aimed towards my ribs. Once his elbow connected with my ribs, he used his other hand to jam the heel of his hand straight into my nose. I winced at the pain in my face. I could tell that he broke my nose and that I would have to set it in order for it to properly heal. I pushed the pain to the back of my mind as we began to circle each other again. Once again, I lunged towards his left and he went to block his left side. At the last second, I lunged towards his right side, using my legs to sweep his feet out from under him. As the Gamma starts to fall, he tucks his body into a roll before springing back to his feet. "Is that all you got, Katalia?" The Gamma taunts me. The Gamma lunges towards me and tries for a nice, stiff left. I have seen the Gamma use this move before. Once he goes to the left, he follows it with a right cross. I slip to his left, which threw him off, and I stepped inside the right cross and reached for a handful of his head. I pulled his head forward and head-butted him. The crunch of his nose was satisfying as I realized that I had broken his nose. While holding his hair in one hand, I used my other hand to ram it into his crotch. He lets out a low groan as he tries to unsuccessfully break from my grip. I was still holding his hair while I mustered all of my strength. I flipped him over and slammed him into the hard ground. My father steps into our ring and asks, "Gamma, do you forfeit?" The Gamma lifts his head to look up at me before nodding his head and tapping his hand on the ground as he lets out another soft grunt. I breathed out a sigh of relief. Once the adrenaline leaves my body, I take note of the pain in my ribs. It is becoming difficult to breathe in and out. I think he broke a few of my ribs. I lay on the ground as I tried to control my labored breathing. Just need a few more seconds and then my healing should kick in. While on the ground, I took the time to snap my nose back into place and I let out a gut-wrenching scream. I forgot how much it hurt to reset broken bones. I heard cheering and I looked around the field. I didn't realize that we had garnered the attention of everyone passing along the fields. I saw Michael and Oliver in the front row with big smiles on their faces, clapping and cheering with the rest of the crowd. I finally feel slightly better, and I raise myself on my hands and knees. "Gamma, are you okay?" He grunts his acknowledgement to my question. He moans, "Taking a hand to the groin hurts. That move should be considered cheating." My father laughed at his Gamma. "Gamma-shan, you should be more concerned about the embarrassment that a quarter of the pack just watched my daughter kick your ass. And you know that all is fair in love and war. She got you good, but remind me not to piss my own daughter off. Katalia, you did well today. You took Gamma-shan down faster than I thought you would be able to, succeeding at 15 minutes, even beating your brother's record. It took Michael 25 minutes to get him on his first try. Head to the pack doctor first, get those ribs checked, hit the shower, and you are completed for the day. We will meet at the same time and place tomorrow. Try to be on time. I do not appreciate tardiness. You are dismissed. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.